There comes a moment in time when a message is sent, not by man, but by destiny. A call, not whispered in the noise of the crowd, but thundered from the heights of purpose. And though the multitudes pass by, blind and distracted, a remnant, the 2%, stops, listens, responds. You were not created to conform, you were forged to awaken. The world is filled with systems, patterns, and pressures that mold people into sameness. From the time we are born, we are taught to fit in, to not disturb the status quo, to go along with the flow. We're told what to believe, how to act, what success looks like, and even how to measure our worth. And over time, without even realizing it, most people conform. They trade their fire for comfort, their individuality for approval, and their destiny for distraction. But you, if you're hearing this now, were not created for that. You were not created to fit into a world that has lost its sense of truth and purpose. You were forged, shaped by pain, trials, and the invisible hands of destiny for something greater. There is something inside of you that cannot be silenced by the noise of this age. You feel it when you sit in silence. You sense it when the world tells you to settle. And something in you whispers, I was made for more. That is not rebellion. That is your calling waking up. Conforming is easy. It's comfortable. It doesn't take courage to agree with the crowd or to hide your fire so others feel safe. But awakening? That takes everything. It requires you to reject the shallow comforts of compromise. It demands that you stand, even if you stand alone. When you awaken, you see through the illusion, through the lies that say you are too small, too late, too unqualified. You realize you were never meant to follow the script written by others. You were meant to write your own. You were forged, not formed. And that word matters. To be formed is to be shaped gently. To be forged is to be put through fire. That means your pain had purpose. Your struggles were not accidents. The nights you cried, the battles you thought would break you, they were the furnace. And from that furnace, something unshakable has emerged. A version of you the world is not ready for, but desperately needs. This is the time of awakening. Not tomorrow, not someday when you feel ready. The call is now. The world doesn't need more copies. It needs the original version of you, the bold, unfiltered, fully alive version. The you that isn't afraid to disrupt the silence, to speak truth in a world that fears it, to act with courage when others hide in comfort. When you awaken, you don't just change your life, you become a catalyst. Your fire wakes others up, your courage makes others brave. One awakened soul can stir a generation. But it begins with a decision, a choice to stop conforming, a choice to rise. You are not hearing this by accident. The 98% will ignore this and return to the slumber of routine. But if you feel something inside you right now, if your heart is beating faster, if your mind is saying, yes, this is me, then you are not of the 98%, you are the 2%. And now it's time to live like it. You are not created to conform, you are forged to awaken. So, awaken. The crowd walks wide roads, the chosen take narrow paths. There is a path that almost everyone takes. It's wide, well-paved, and easy to follow. It's the path of least resistance, where the opinions of others guide every step, where safety is chosen over risk, and comfort is valued above purpose. Most people walk this road without even realizing they've chosen it. They go to school, get the job, follow the rules, and live lives that never question the narrative they were handed. They do what's expected, what's safe, what's familiar, and the world praises them for it, rewards them for walking in line. But make no mistake, this is the wide road, and it leads not to greatness, but to obscurity. The narrow path, though, that's different. The narrow path is the road few are willing to take. It's steep, uncertain, and at times lonely. It demands discipline, sacrifice, and a relentless commitment to truth. It does not offer the applause of the crowd, but it does lead to impact, legacy, and fulfillment. Those who walk it are not guided by ease, but by conviction. They do not ask, is this popular? They ask, is this right? They don't blend in, they break out. The crowd always chooses the wide road because it feels safe. But safe is not your purpose. You weren't meant to live hidden behind the expectations of others. You were meant to walk with clarity, courage, and conviction, even when the world doesn't understand you, especially when the world doesn't understand you. Because the narrow path requires that you walk in obedience to a higher calling, not the voice of the masses. And sometimes, that calling will require you to step out while others stay seated, to speak up when others stay silent, to move forward when fear tells you to stand still. It's easy to follow the crowd. It's easy to let others decide what success means for you. But when you choose the narrow path, you're choosing to think differently, to live intentionally, and to take responsibility for your destiny. The narrow path does not guarantee ease, it guarantees growth. It strips away pretense. It tests your resolve. It brings out who you really are. That's why so few choose it. The wide road lets you hide. The narrow road forces you to become. And here's the truth. You already know which road you're being called to take. Deep down, you feel it. You've seen the signs. You've had moments where the wide road didn't satisfy you, where you knew there was more, where you were haunted by the sense that you were made for something greater. That was not your imagination. That was the call to the narrow path. And you can ignore it, like most do. You can keep walking the well-worn path of comfort, or you can turn. To walk the narrow path is not to be better than others. It's to be faithful to what you were uniquely made for. It's to stop comparing and start becoming. It's to stop chasing what others told you to want and start moving toward what your soul already knows. The crowd will never understand the chosen. They'll call you foolish for walking away from security. They'll mock you for taking the risk. But the narrow path is not for approval. It's for impact, for destiny, for truth. The crowd walks wide roads because they fear failure. The chosen take narrow paths because they fear regret. You are not like the rest. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to walk roads paved by others. You are here to blaze trails, to walk with purpose, and to live awake. The wide road ends where it began, but the narrow path? It leads to transformation. So walk it, even if you walk it alone, especially if you walk it alone. This time, comfort is the enemy of calling. Comfort feels good. It's warm, familiar, and easy. It doesn't challenge you, it doesn't stretch you, and it never asks more of you than you're willing to give. It tells you you've done enough, even when you've barely scratched the surface of your potential. It whispers, "Stay here, it's safe," while your purpose calls you to step into the unknown. Comfort is seductive, but it's also dangerous, because it convinces you to settle for less than what you were created for. Every calling begins with a disruption. It pulls you away from what's easy and demands that you grow, that you fight, that you endure. It requires sacrifice, discipline, and risk. But when comfort is in control, those things feel like threats instead of invitations. You start to believe that struggle means you're doing something wrong, when in truth, it often means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Growth and greatness never live in the same space as ease. The world sells comfort as the goal. Retire early, avoid pain, choose the path with the least resistance. But your soul was not built for that. Deep down you know it. That's why when you stay in comfort too long, you start to feel restless. You lose energy, passion, and vision. That's not failure, it's friction. It's the tension between your calling and your comfort. It's the war between who you are and who you're meant to become. Your calling will take you places your comfort never will. It will push you into situations that force you to grow stronger, think deeper, and live braver. It won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Because the call is not just about what you achieve, it's about who you become in the process. And that transformation cannot happen while you cling to what feels safe. Look at history. Look at the people who changed the world, who impacted generations, who lived fully alive. None of them chose comfort. They chose the hard road. They left what was familiar to pursue what was right. They walked into storms with eyes wide open, not because they loved pain, but because they knew comfort was never the goal. Calling was, and they were willing to pay the price. The truth is, comfort is not just a distraction, it's a trap. It lulls you into complacency. It tells you that you have time, that you can start tomorrow, that your dreams can wait. But your calling is not waiting, it's knocking. And if you ignore it long enough, the voice gets quieter, not because it disappears, but because your comfort drowns it out. Some people will live and die in the arms of comfort. But not you. You're hearing this because something in you knows the truth. You weren't made for comfort. You were made for purpose. And purpose costs something. It demands that you let go of what's easy so you can take hold of what's eternal. The moment you choose calling over comfort, you set something in motion. You awaken the part of you that was built for more. You ignite the fire that was buried beneath years of fear and distraction. And yes, it will be hard. But the pain of growth is nothing compared to the regret of never stepping into who you were created to be. So if you feel the tension, don't run from it. Lean in. That discomfort you feel, that's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to move, to rise, to answer. Because comfort is the enemy of calling. And calling is calling you now. Delay is the language of the 98%. Action is the anthem of the 2%. Most people don't say no to their dreams. They just say, not yet, not today, maybe later. They convince themselves they're being wise, patient, strategic. But time passes, and later becomes never. Delay is the silent assassin of purpose. It doesn't shout, it doesn't fight, it simply waits, quietly, as your conviction fades and your moment slips away. That's how the 98% live. Not in rebellion, but in hesitation. They say they're waiting for the right time, the perfect sign, the ideal conditions. But perfection is an illusion, and the right time never comes. Life will always offer a reason to pause, responsibilities, fear, uncertainty, fatigue, but those who wait for the stars to align will spend their lives looking at the sky, wondering why nothing changed. Delay sounds reasonable, but it's rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort. And fear, when left unchecked, grows stronger with every excuse. Action is different. Action is violent to the status quo. It breaks rhythm. It disrupts delay. It doesn't wait for permission. The 2% understand this. They know that bold steps don't require certainty. They require courage. They know that movement creates momentum, and clarity comes through doing, not just thinking. Action doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees progress. And progress is where growth lives. The difference between the 98% and the 2% isn't intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It's urgency. The 2% wake up with the understanding that time is not infinite, that life moves fast, that every delay has a cost. They don't waste energy fantasizing about what could be. They build what will be. They act while others talk. They move when others hesitate. They show up, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable. Most people are addicted to planning, dreaming, and preparing, all good things, but dangerous when they become substitutes for action. You can strategize forever and still accomplish nothing. You can read every book, attend every seminar, and write every to-do list, but unless you do something, nothing changes. The 2% don't just dream big, they act fast. They understand that imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Action is the great separator. It doesn't care about your background, your past, or your fears. It simply asks, what will you do now? Will you move, or will you delay? Will you answer, or will you wait? Because every moment you wait, the life you could have lived drifts further out of reach. But every moment you act, the future you were born for gets closer. There will always be a reason to wait. But the truth is, there's also always a reason to begin. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to move, to speak, to show up. That first step is where everything changes, not because it solves everything, but because it breaks the spell of delay. And once you move, you realize that action is power, that one decision can shift your direction, that one moment of courage can become the spark that sets your entire life on fire. Delay is easy. Delay feels safe. But it is a thief. Action is dangerous. Discovery is safe. So delay feels safe. But it is a thief. Action is dangerous. Action is uncertain. But it is the path. If you are the 2%, you already know this. You've waited long enough. Now it's time to move. Because delay is the language of the 98%, and action is your anthem. Sing it, live it, let the world hear it. You are not waiting on a sign, you are the sign. We grow up believing that something outside of us must happen before we can begin. A door must open, a person must appear, a feeling must arrive. We tell ourselves that once we're more confident, more prepared, more qualified, then we'll start. We wait for confirmation, for a signal from the sky, for someone to validate what we already know deep down. But here's the truth. The sign you're waiting for isn't coming, because it's already here. It's you. There is a moment in every life where you realize the answer is not out there, it's inside. That moment is powerful, but also terrifying, because if you are the sign, it means there's no more excuse. No more delay, no more blaming timing, circumstances, or other people. It means the responsibility is yours. And for many, that's too heavy. So they go back to waiting, hoping, asking for a sign that will never come, while the clock keeps ticking. But the 2% understand something different. They know they were born with a purpose that doesn't need permission. They stop waiting for alignment and start walking in faith, because movement creates the miracle. Fire doesn't fall on the altar. Until something is placed on it, you act, then clarity comes. You move, then things shift. Waiting can become a mask for fear, but when you realize you are the sign, fear loses its grip. You are the evidence that the world needs change. You are the proof that something different is possible. You are the signal that says, there's another way. When you rise, others see it. When you speak, others listen. When you take action, others find the courage to follow. You don't need a spotlight to be seen. Your authenticity is light enough. You don't need the world to say go. Your conviction is your green light. Think about the people who have changed history. They weren't the most qualified. They weren't the most favored. What set them apart was not a sign they saw. It was a decision they made. They understood that their very existence, their pain, their passion, their fire, was the sign. They stepped out not because everything made sense, but because they knew they couldn't stay silent any longer. And once they moved, everything began to align, not before, after. There's a danger in always asking for signs. It can train you to believe that power is external, that you are not ready until something or someone says you are. But that's not how calling works. Calling doesn't wait. It burns. It disrupts. It moves you before the map is clear. And when you realize that you are the sign, that you carry the calling, the message, the spark, everything changes. You stop seeking approval and start embodying purpose. You stop asking for permission and start giving yourself the command to begin. You are not here by accident. You've been placed in this moment with your voice, your gifts, your story, for a reason. You are not here to observe. You are here to ignite. You are here to be the sign others have been waiting for. The sign that says it's possible to break free. The sign that says it's not too late. The sign that says courage is still alive in this world. So stop waiting. The signal has already been sent, and it's you. You are the sign. You are the confirmation. You are the call in human form. And now is the time to answer it. If you hear the call, you've already been chosen. There's a voice that speaks not to your ears, but to your soul. It doesn't shout, yet it cannot be ignored. It shows up in quiet moments, in the tension between where you are and where you're meant to be. It stirs in the stillness, in the dissatisfaction, in the whisper that says, "There's more." That voice is not random. It's not a coincidence. It's a call. And if you can hear it, that alone is proof. You've already been chosen. The world will try to convince you that calling is something you earn, that you must qualify, achieve, or prove your worth before you step into your purpose. But that's a lie. The truth is simpler and more powerful. The call itself is the evidence. The very fact that you feel it means you've already been marked, chosen, set apart. You don't need a title. You don't need a spotlight. You don't need someone to pick you from a crowd. You've already been picked by something greater. Most people never hear the call because they're too busy drowning in the noise. Others hear it, but run from it, thinking it demands too much. They tell themselves they're not ready, not capable, not worthy. But the call doesn't come to the qualified. It qualifies those who answer. It doesn't look for the perfect, it finds the willing. And if it found you, it's because there's something in you the world needs, something only you carry, a sound only your life can release. You don't have to understand all the details. You don't have to know where the road leads. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to answer, to respond, to say yes, even if your voice shakes. The call may ask more from you than you think you have to give, but it will also unlock more in you than you ever imagined was there. You'll grow into it. You'll rise to it, because the call brings with it the grace to carry it out. If you feel the pull to do more, to be more, to step out from the shadows and into the life you were made for, that's not imagination. That's the echo of eternity speaking to you. That's the invitation. And it's not extended to everyone. Not everyone is listening. Not everyone is willing. But you're still reading. You still feel it. That alone makes you different. Being chosen doesn't mean the road will be easy. It means the road will matter. It means that your steps have weight, that your life has direction, and that you're not here to simply exist. You're here to impact. The chosen carry burdens others don't see. They walk through fire most avoid. But they also experience the kind of fulfillment and clarity that only purpose can give. Don't waste time waiting for someone else to confirm what you already know deep down. Don't wait for perfect timing, for more credentials, for a safer path. The moment you heard the call was the moment your life changed. Now the only question is, will you rise? You don't need a sign in the sky or a voice from the clouds. You already have the only sign that matters, the call inside you, and if you can hear it, you've already been chosen. Now, live like it, move like it, lead like it, because chosen people don't wait for the world to give them a role. They step into it, they create it, they become it. You are not waiting for the call. The call has been waiting for you.